Here. Here.
Here, would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. The first item on the agenda tonight is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move. I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions? Motion passes. The next one is to acknowledge the minutes of the February 10th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? The motion passes. The next item is a motion to open the public hearing on the facilities of the Wildwood Sewer District.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. This is a public portion for the hearing on this particular item. If anyone has any comments they'd like to make, then please come up to the podium, identify yourself, and that you're a resident of the town.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is the public portion of the meeting, and this is to open the meeting with respect to any comments you might have concerning the following items, the follow-on items on the agenda. So do I have a motion to open the public portion of the meeting?
Move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. So now, if anybody should have any comments they'd like to make on the public, on the meeting, please come up to the podium, identify yourself, and note that you're a resident of the town, whereabouts. Seeing none?
Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. The first item in discussions is that we actually are honored tonight to have Supervisor Connie Smith come up here to the podium with Jessica and to talk about idea that she's had and she's very fond in trying to develop, and I think it's a great idea. And so I asked Connie to come tonight with Jessica and to talk about the
Thank you.
powwow event that is being proposed to the board for consideration.
I apologize, I left my notes at home because I forgot, and I was in Fishkill at 6:30. So I'm here without anything, but I think I can wing it. We plan powwow to be May 16th and 17th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday in May. And it'll be from 4 o'clock to 6, it says, I said 5.
Oh, sorry, 11 to 5. I'll fix it.
We want
11 to 5.
to,
11 to 5.
yes, we'll want to go home by 5, I'm sure. I've been working on this since December. I saw where Kent, I don't know if it's the village or a town of Kent, but Kent and Carmel have this every year. And a gentleman mistakenly put his name where I could find it. So I called him, and he's been wonderful, really. He's a lot of help.
And yeah, I know, Connie told me he was planning on retiring, but with her great
Well, now
persuasive
that's
skills,
changed.
it's changed.
His wife won, he's not retiring. Anyway, so he's been doing it for 17 years there, so I think he, I was glad I could find him because he's helped. The powwow is a way to educate people on the customs and things of Native Indians. I had it right in the beginning, Native Americans. It'll be all kinds of entertainment, dancers, drummers. I've sent out, I think, 40 letters to all different entertainers and vendors. So we have one vendor that's even paid already, and I turned it in already. And then we have one that's the Birds of Prey. That's an hour long, so it's gonna be a busy time. I think that everybody would like it. Well, maybe not. Anyway, I have already contacted the firehouse, the New Hackensack Firehouse, to get permission to have people park there. And I've already talked to Joe and Bill and Jessica to see what they're gonna do, if they're gonna help. I have other people gonna help. I need to get a hold of the Boy Scouts. I haven't been able to get a hold of them. So if anybody here has the contact.
Bill, do you want to, or you want me to? Either one of us.
Sure, we can help you with that.
Yeah,
That's not a
we'll
problem.
help you, Connie, with it. Do they still,
All right.
Bill, do they still have Order the Arrow?
Yes.
Okay.
And what else?
Do you want me to fill in some of the
Sure.
stuff? Okay. So this event, it's 2 days. Connie already mentioned that. The program for it is actually similar for both days. It repeats. So it's live music, dancers, vendors that are selling native foods and native goods. And we have a $75 vendor fee for it, which we've been speaking with the gentleman who runs the one every year, and that's a great price for it. So we're looking to have some revenue coming in from this to offset whatever expenses we have. Connie's starting to get some responses, so that's exciting. They're starting to roll in. And she thinks about it around the clock, so, just about, so.
And I understand, Connie, that you're in contact that, trying to get some of the last of the Wappinger Indian descendants to come?
We're trying,
Yeah.
but
Right.
we need to put more time in.
Yeah, sure.
There was something that went across my mind. Oh, the vendors. The vendors are $75. That's this year. I keep telling them, this is our first year, so we're gonna give you a break. If it's successful, and if we do it again, we'll be charging more. Okay, anything else?
The last bit of it is the general structure of it is very similar to a carnival in that these are vendors that are traveling East Coast, Northeast, things like that. So they actually come, set up, stay overnight on the property, similar to what happened with the carnival vendors. So they would be right there on site overnight to watch the setup and things like that.
That's where Bill comes in. He's gonna help with the
Sure.
policing. He said anything I want, he'll do, so he's gonna be sorry.
Oh.
We'll work on that.
I have said that since my Eagle Scout project in 1994, when Connie was the
Yep.
supervisor, so,
She was
And I
talking-
volunteered other members of the board as well.
still going.
Yes.
I almost didn't make it tonight because I forgot, and I was in Fishkill, so I don't know what my brain reminded me
Well,
of. but
thank you.
I'm glad it did.
Well, we're glad you're here,
Yeah.
and, obviously, since Daniel Nimhem was the chief of the Wappinger people, I've always been an advocate that we take some ownership in the Native American culture. So the fact that you're spearheading this and taking the lead on this, as a former town historian, I believe Connie was, and former town supervisor, I think it's
Right.
really appropriate that Connie be leading this effort, and certainly look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we should have a motion officially designating this date and authorizing them to go ahead and use Schlott House.
That
I'll
would be
move
great.
that we authorize the Parks and Recreation Department to work with former Supervisor Constance Smith on the Wappinger Powwow to occur on May 16th and 17th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Schlott House Park.
I'll second that.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion pass.
All
Thank you,
right.
Jessica. Thank you very much, Supervisor.
I'll be back.
Yes, look forward to it. Next item on agenda, interesting presentation. We have ClearGov offers some services, and Joey and Tom Barr have been working with them, in distilling certain information. They provide several different services for our consideration, but there's particularly one that I find of interest as it relates to, our internet and information that could be provided to the public at large. And so we'll have a presentation. Joey, you want to do some other introductions first? So you can set more of the stage for it.
So the town supervisor had asked Tom Barr and myself to look into this software called ClearGov, and that is a municipal transparency website available for all municipalities across the United States. And we felt that it would be a good tool for the town of Wappinger to use in terms of moving forward, in terms of future grant funding and things like that, future planning of budgets as well. So we have a representative here, actually from Long Island, who drove all the way up here to speak to the Wappinger Town Board today to explain why the town really should move forward with this software. Again, it covers a transparency center as well as budgeting software as well. And again, it could be really beneficial to the town in a variety of aspects. So he's going to give a presentation once we can get the TVs working.
And we could look at it as one module or several, but I thought it would be worthwhile to share. And as we've talked with different grant funding agencies as they go through their various check boxes, these are the types of things as far as transparency and information that also, further adds to it. But I found it fascinating, the transparency module in particular. The budget module, we do a lot of our own work, and we've have other with the Edmunds package, but want to let them go ahead and give a presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Battaglia. I'm the New York account executive for ClearGov. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and present to you all. And I've had the pleasure of presenting to Tom and Joe, and I believe my colleague had presented to Dick as well. So happy to show the solution. Everyone else hasn't seen it yet. As Joey mentioned, our company, we are a budgeting and transparency software company for small and medium-sized local governments specifically. We work with over 300 local governments across the country, including a handful here in New York. And the thing we've done is we've created these transparency profiles that can be utilized as a one-stop shop for transparency needs, if that's what you determine you'd like to do. We've built this platform already for the town, and it has a lot of your information in it. I'm going to walk you through the basic profile that we've already created, and then I'll show you what else you can do with this profile. But the first thing you'll notice is that everything in this profile, it takes your demographic and financial information that you submit to the year end to the federal and state governments and puts it in a really digestible format for residents. I mean, when we're talking financial information, demographics, sometimes this stuff can be complicated, right? It's hard enough for people internally to understand it, let alone for residents. And we found that most municipalities are trying to be transparent. They're trying to put information out there, and getting to know everyone at the town, I can definitely attest that you guys are trying to be transparent. You put your board meeting minutes out there and other information, but the folks we tend to work with are the folks who are trying to take their process that's good to the next level and make it great. And You'll see here some of the demographic information we have for the town. I mean, this is your demographic information you submit to the Census Bureau. This is up to date as of 2017, and as I mentioned, it's in a easy-to-read format. I mean, I don't need to, as a resident, I don't need to scroll through, paragraphs of data to figure out what the demographic information is. I can see it in those charts with the context to my numbers. I can slice and dice those numbers and get the information pretty quickly. The other great thing about this site is that two things. One, it's ADA optimized, so you can ensure that everybody, no matter who they are with the town, is able to see it. And two, it's mobile friendly. Over 50% of web traffic nowadays is done on the phone, so if you don't have something that's mobile friendly, then most of the folks trying to see it can't actually see it. Scrolling through this profile, we see some financial information that, again, we already have for the town, and a lot of this information can be both customized and overridden, so this financial information we're seeing, this is up to date as of 2017. As a client on the back end, all you have to do is send us a couple reports out of your accounting software, Edmunds, and we can literally tell you what reports to send, and you can overwrite any of this to plug in 19, 20, and subsequent years into here as well. But looking at this from a resident's perspective, again, I don't need to comb through a PDF of a budget document with a bunch of Excel line items. I can just see it in 10 seconds and know exactly what resident expenses are for the year, what that context is compared to other towns in the area, and I can break down that information as well. The charts, the graphs, the infographics, that's all being populated by your numbers, both the numbers we already have for you and numbers you'll put into the software. So it's creating those charts and graphs for you, and again, giving residents a better understanding of what's going on with the municipality. And the debt information as well, we can plug this into here and tell that story. And I mentioned being able to kind of slice and dice. I'll show you two ways to do that here. If I go into the demographics section of this profile, right now we're looking at 2017 demographic information. Again, you can overwrite any of this, customize it in the terms of picking and choosing what you want to display. Some of this, perhaps you don't want to put out to the public, and maybe you want to use it for internal purposes for whatever reason. If you're in the middle of working on it, you have the option to do that. But again, just viewing it from both an internal and external stakeholder perspective, you get that quick snapshot of what's going on. It allows you to tell the story of maybe certain decisions within the town and give residents, again, context to those decisions, age group information, household information. And I think speaking with Tom, it sounds like you have an influx of people coming to the town from maybe other areas of the state. Being able to broadcast this information from potential individuals who want to either move here or start a business here. I mean, being able to properly broadcast this information is going to pay dividends in the long run and build that trust with both the public and perhaps future people who want to move here. Household information. And again, all this is customizable housing information to whether or not you want to show it and how you want to show it. We also have the option to show, kind of dive into expense information even further as I scroll up here. Apologize if I'm a little slow. I'm used to working off a MacBook here, trying my best. Expense information. This is your budget information that we have. Again, you can plug in the latest years. Something we'll do during the onboarding process is we'll remake this based on your chart of accounts. So right now, this profile, if you signed up today, it's based on a nationalized, standardized chart of accounts. As you're well aware, each municipality, not only in the state, but across the country, calls things different things. Sometimes the police department's called public safety, vice versa. So right now it's in a nationalized, standardized chart, so things might be called something differently than you call it internally. So during that onboarding process, we'll remake everything so that what you're broadcasting to the public is exactly what you call things internally. But being able to kind of slice and dice, go through different charts and graphics to find out that information. Scrolling through Public Works here. And again, this is your information. As a resident, I see that snapshot of what's going on here, but it's breaking it down on a per capita basis. If I want to see an analysis of this, here's a great feature you can use for both external and internal purposes. You can do peer grouping. So right now we have a peer group showing on your profile. This is being pulled through our algorithm. So we're defaulting to a peer group using population size, median home value, and distance. You can create as many of these peer groups as if you want. During the budget season, if you've ever talked about doing peer grouping for certain expense information, trying to figure out what other municipalities in the area are doing compared to you, this is a great tool to do that internally. And then externally, if you have some stuff that you want residents to kind of fool around with, play around with peer grouping, they can create as many customized peer groups as they want. And you can pick whichever municipalities you want to throw into here. You don't have to use our defaulted algorithm. If I scroll through here, we got additional information on those peer groups. I'm going to take a quick pause. I'm going to show you some additional features we can do with this, but does anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments at
So
this
just a
point?
couple of questions. So first question is, how many towns in Dutchess County actually use this software? Anybody?
You, I believe, would be our first active client in Dutchess County.
Okay.
We have, I believe, almost 15 or 16 clients here in New York State. We have over 300 locally, 300 nationally, excuse me.
And what is the cost of the software?
So this software is priced based on your budget across all funds. We're very transparent about pricing. So for your municipality, I believe you fall into our Tier 2 group, which would be a $10 to $40 million budget. This would be $5,500 a year on a flat one annual subscription on a, you'd renew that every year, so it's a one-year term. The administration's negotiated waiving a $1,200 onboarding, or $1,800 onboarding, excuse me. So you're getting a pretty good deal. We've waived that $1,800 onboarding. If you chose to renew this at that flat $5,500 annual subscription, we found that a lot of tech companies, their practice is to kind of lure clients in, particularly GovTech clients, in on a low introductory rate, get you kind of hooked on the software a couple years later, and then kind of jack the price up as their costs increase. So because we want to be a partner with you, what we've done is built in a 3% cost of living increase into the pricing so that you can price out, you can budget for how much the software will cost, not just in year 1, but year 5, year 20, et cetera, just that flat increase, that flat rate and that 3% cost of living increase. We like to say that, you know, the software is built for small and medium-sized local governments. It's intuitive, it's user-friendly, it's got you guys in mind. A lot of tech companies out there, they build the softwares for, you know, the New York Cities and the Bostons of the world, not the Wappingers of the world. And, you know, trying to find a software that can do something like this, sometimes it's like getting a chainsaw to carve a pumpkin when really all you need is a knife. And we've designed this to be exactly what you need on a day-to-day basis. And it's priced based on that as well.
And do you do parallel testing? So in other words, if whatever the software is today, you would do a parallel so you can see that what we're looking to do is, you know, a little better than what we're doing today. Like, I guess, how would you be able to compare that your software is so much better than what we're getting today is what I'm looking at? Like, what special features would you have here that we don't have today, I guess is what I'm looking at. So what is?
I have my entire thing on my computer, but I mean, talking with your administration, you're not broadcasting information like this in a digestible format. You're putting your board meeting minutes out there, which is great, and a lot of folks are doing that. You're putting your budget document online, which is great. And the next step, the folks we're working with across the country who want to be doing a great transparency effort is getting that information in a super digestible format. There's a couple other features I'm going to walk you through. We have department dashboards where you can put out your KPIs and updates on that, and capital project updates as well, and some additional features. So that's some of the stuff, but the folks we're looking to work with are the folks who want to take some of that information and be even more transparent with residents, get it to residents in that more digestible format. You know, just because people don't come to your town board meetings, we find, doesn't mean they're not engaged. I think a YouGov poll recently showed that over 60% of residents care most about local government. They just don't come to board meetings because, quite frankly, they don't have the time, or they're working, or it's just inaccessible. So something like this in the 21st century, where we live in the day and age of iPads and Google, residents want to be able to find information in 5 seconds. And you know, from the folks we work with, we get rave reviews from that perspective.
You had mentioned earlier, Rob, that, you know, a key aspect of this would be doing like a comparative analysis showing other communities, but if you don't have any communities from Dutchess County, then we don't have that advantage, that feature, do we?
So we've built these profiles for every municipality in the country. It's just a matter of, do you want to utilize this for your purposes? But we have everyone's financial information. We have it up to date as of 2017, 2018. So you can do the peer grouping. I mean, we have folks who sign. You don't have to. You can do peer grouping with any municipality. Just
So
they don't have to be.
You have other Dutchess County municipal information on here up through 2017. Is that what you're saying?
We have every municipality in the country. If you want to compare, you know, Wappinger, Florida, I don't know if that's a real municipality, but you can compare anyone across the country. It's just, and being in that nationalized standardized chart of accounts, you can compare apples to apples, and that's the benefit of having all that information in there. But yes, Dick, to your point, you can do that peer grouping with any municipality. It does not need to be a Dutchess County client.
No, understood. But since, for example, you mentioned residents, people moving up into the area. Of course, we're competing with other communities, and we think that we have a very good value proposition here in the town of Wappinger, so that's where, you know. it
So
would
we'd
be
want to
good.
probably be able to do that comparison and show people
Right.
why we're the town to come to. And
But if,
we
I have
don't
a
have to.
question, if somebody is moving into this area, they can find this information out themselves. This is information that's out there free to everybody, isn't it? I mean, I know people that have looked through real estate, and they can tell the median prices of houses, who's moved here, school districts, across the county. What is this, I don't understand the big advantage of hiring you, so you have to sell me on this.
I haven't gotten through the whole
That's good.
profile, so
That's
absolutely,
my concern,
there's more
yeah.
features. I mean, I think, you know, from that perspective, of course, you're gonna have, you know, the few people who,
No, there's quite a few people that can get this information. It's not just a few.
I don't think it's a matter of being able to get the information, it's getting it in a format that's digestible in 5 seconds, not having to go through a PDF for an hour and to find the information. I think that tends to be our clients' feedback from
That might be your clients, but I've interfaced with a few other young and up-and-coming computer people that can get it quickly. So, but go ahead,
happy to continue to show you.
thank you.
And the way I left it with Rob is we would not be making a decision tonight. We would be discussing and maybe have further questions and inquiry, but
Definitely.
no.
I'm interested to see
resolution,
what
yeah.
they have to offer.
So what I showed you is the basic profile. That's basically the bones of what's available. Now let me show you what an account looks like with all the bells and whistles. And contextually, I'm going to show you a couple client accounts for here in New York of how they've taken this profile and plugged it onto their website. That's what I'm going to show you at the end. But let me show you a fully blown out account with all the bells and whistles. First thing you'll notice is this one's clearly branded, the City of Clear Lake. It just happens to be on our server. And then it's branded very, very nicely, you know, very nice page here. You can customize this, whatever image or text information you want to put in here on the branding side of things.
So you can customize it to feed it into our website and all, you know, we put a lot of time, effort, and even money into modernizing our website. for the town.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think in this vein, you would just be continuing that effort that you've already undertaken. So looking at the financial information, you know, something you can do is add commentary to your numbers. So whether that's, you know, someone in a specific department, that's the town supervisor, the town clerk, whomever, being able to add commentary to the numbers. You know, the biggest thing, a big reason folks sign up with us is that there's a lot of information out there, and sometimes there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially in the day and age of social media. So, you know, only relying on a town board meeting to disseminate information, using something like this to get it to residents at their fingertips and avoid that misinformation spreading. This way you can tell your story and be in control of what's going on. And something like this, real quick, kind of captures that ethos. And here in your revenue and expense information, I showed you on the basic profile, actual revenue and expenses. Here's kind of an option, a fully blown out chart. So this would have actual revenue, budgeted revenue, over budgeted, forecasted revenue and expenditures. And again, if this is that level of granular detail you want to show to the public, you have that option. If you want to show more detail internally, you have the option to do that as well for internal stakeholders. So this chart, let alone, you know, this is just being generated by your numbers. You don't have to go in and spend 2 hours in Word creating that chart. That's being done for you. Debt information, again, this is customizable. In this case, this municipality's added commentary to that debt information, trying to tell that story of what's going on instead of people just making their own conclusions off what they're seeing. A really great feature, you have the option to turn on here on the expense side of things. You saw me show the expense breakdown per department on a per capita basis. A feature you can turn on is allowing residents to type in their property tax bill and show exactly what their individual contribution to each department throughout the town is. So instead of a per capita breakdown, it's, I pay, $5,000 a year in property taxes to the town. I can see my individual breakdown to each department within the town. And so what my actual individual contribution from that $5,000 property tax bill goes to, and being able to figure out that information again, in this case.
Does that work effectively, I guess, with fund? We have several different funds. How would that work for that? Where we have an A fund, we have a B fund.
Well, again, we're remaking this based off your chart of accounts, right? So it's going to be customized what you call
So
things.
you would be able to customize it to fit in with our various funds.
During the onboarding process, we're going to tell you what reports from your accounting software to send us, and we will remake this entire thing both for external purposes and internal purposes to reflect your accounting software. So whatever makes sense for each municipality, obviously every town and village out there does things differently. This will be reflected here in the profile. And as a resident, again, this is customizable in the sense what kind of level of detail you want to get into, but if I go into Public Works here, you can show not just your contribution to that department, but what their contribution is to each category within that department. So I pay $889 a year to maintenance, and if I break that down even further, within the maintenance section of that department, I pay $589 to landscaping. So you can, again, however many layers of the onion you want to show, that's totally customizable. If you want to use that internally, externally, or customize it, that's up to you. But you can get as granular as you want with the
So
solution.
you can drill down as much as you want each, once you set up the category, you can drill down as far as you want to go?
But you're in control of what layers of the onion they can peel back.
Okay.
Absolutely. A couple more things I want to show. We have open checkbook capability with this solution. And really, there's a few ways to use this. So you can take sections of the open checkbook, like a specific department, and in that department breakdown I just showed you, where you're going through category, subcategory, you can even get as granular as that category, that subcategory within that category, within that department, a line item breakdown of all the expenses. You can do that. You could sprinkle a certain open checkbook for the department, or you can do the all-encompassing open checkbook here, which is the searchable database. And again, this is all just coming from your accounting software, but if you wanted to turn this on, this is an option. Maybe anyone would be able to search by vendors, description, expenditure type, start date, end date. We find folks like using this externally. We find folks like using this not externally, but they like using it internally as another level of kind of oversight. So instead of having to find out expenditure information during budget season as a town board member, perhaps I want to just search on the database and in 5 seconds know exactly, hey, this is what we pay to this for this, and that's going to help you inform you during the budget season instead of having to rely on someone internally. It adds that level of oversight. Or you can choose not to use this. Again, it's at your fingertips. 2 more big things that we have. We have department dashboard. Department dashboards you can do. So, we're looking at everything from that kind of administrative perspective. Now here's the part of the profile where your departments get to have their fingertips on it and being able to individually communicate with residents. So, however many departments you have with the town, you're able to give out access to all your different department heads where they'd be able to create their own page here. And I'll just show you an example of one here, the police department. So we have the police chief who's added a little bit of kind of narrative here and some goals, and you're able to communicate KPIs and other information out there. So in this case, this police department's putting out how many 911 calls do we receive? And in terms of creating these pages, it's a matter of, do I want a small text box, do I want a large text box? Do I want my chart on the right, do I want my chart on the left? Do I want an image on the left? The charts, the graphs are a real pain to create. The software is doing it automatically for you. They're just, again, just plugging in those numbers. And depending on where you're at as a municipality, if you're not tracking this information, this is a way for you to track it internally. If you are tracking internally, well, it's a way for them to communicate that to the public. And there's actually a few applications that come with this. So there's actually, within this entire solution, is a chart and graph builder. So just being able to create nice charts and graphs like this, instead of having to have your team do it in Word for 2 hours, which is, very painstaking process. This, let alone, will save them a ton of time just doing that alone. We got crime statistics in here, and again, it's a matter of what kind of chart do I want to show it in. What kind of chart? You can do, updates on events and stuff like that as well. And, while they're creating these pages, they get to choose when they want to show it to the public. It's not like they'll ever see anything like this kind of in works. They're picking and choosing when they want to display this information. You can do individual department budget information, right? That's coming just from your accounting software, and it's a matter of how you want to display that information and whether or not you want to display it. And again, these pages are really probably the most customizable in a sense.
So again, your software will pull it out of Edmunds?
Again, during that onboarding process, you're sending us a report, so all that information is being housed in the software. It's not like you have to keep going back and forth. You do it once, and it's there. And every year you just update the newest one, and it's really not a lot of work. We're doing all the heavy lifting for you. But yes, absolutely. Last thing I want to show you, which candidly your team seemed to be the most excited about. That's why I saved it for last, and quite frankly, it's the thing our clients are the most excited about, are the capital project pages. And this is a way for the town to communicate what's going on with projects, not just capital projects that the town's undertaking, but county projects, state projects, village projects that are impacting the community. So just like the department dashboards where you can create these customized pages, your team can here create projects for pages for each project. And just click and showing you how one of these pages looks here. This is a way to really, this is probably the stuff your residents care most about. Hey, what's impacting me on a day-to-day basis? This is an easy way to disseminate that information. So we got intersection improvements. We got a little bit of information about that. You can attach accompanying information, photographs, renderings, public hearing notices, whether that's a JPEG or a PDF. We know where the project's taking place. And again, this is customizable. You get to pick and choose which of these panels you want to show. If you don't want to show funding information, you don't have to do that. If you do, that's up to you. We got project budget information, expenditures, projected, to date, a funding source chart, expenditure over time graph, project management phases, so we know who the point of contact is, where you're at in that project, and again, whether that's a town project or, hey, this is a county project, and if you're curious about it, this is an easy way to disseminate that, they're undertaking this and put their information out there. Project timeline. Projected timeline versus current updates. And you may have noticed this throughout the software. There is a Q&A component to all this, so you can have this Q&A component sprinkled throughout, or you can have it turn on a specific section of the profile. We found a lot of people like having it in the public works section of it, the project pages, for obvious reasons. If someone has a question about a project, they can just send the question to you in the back office. You receive it, you answer it privately, and then if you determine, you know what, but a lot of other residents have this question, I'd like to post the answer to it, you'll be able to post that thread, and they'll be able to see the answer to that question. And the last thing about these pages, for any resident who's interested in getting updates to these project pages, they can subscribe their email, and every time you make an update to this page, they'll get an email notification of it. If you make 3 updates in one day, they'll only get 1 email. It'll be kind of a summary email so they don't get bombarded. But this is a really amazing way for your residents to stay engaged and know what's going on, especially about the things that they care about.
So on that note, in addition to adding our municipal projects to this database, one thing that Tom and B and the Building and Zoning Department has been working on is uploading all of the projects in front of the Planning Board and Board of Appeals to our town website. And this is something that we would be able to add to ClearGov as well. So our residents, if there's a potential project that's being done by a private entity going on in the town before either board, it could be added to that database, and our residents can subscribe to updates as well as see all of the different updates going on with that project. Right now, we already upload all of the project plans to the town website, so it's available with each planning board meeting and zoning board of appeals meeting. That's something that we've just started, and Tom has been instrumental in getting that up on the website. But this would be an easy-to-access database that we can add all of those different projects, whether it's a plaza being constructed or some sort of development before the board, they can log on to see that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it also can cover county projects. So coming up, we have Old Hopewell Road reconstruction. That is a Dutchess County project, not a Town of Wappinger project, but directly impacts our residents, and that's something that we can add to this.
And two more, and thank you for that, Joey. Two more things. I showed you how that basic profile is there and has your information, right? This page is how you can take that basic profile, that basic infrastructure, and really build it out. But quite frankly, you can really customize this as much as you want. I mean, that department pages, I mean, if you want to add specific pages that aren't even departments and you want to do like a zoning board of appeals or something like that, I mean, you can use this as much as you want and customize it as much as you want. And in terms of the simplicity of using it, I'll see here if I can pull up the administrative view. Sorry, I don't know my password. I gotta look at it on my computer. So the back office of this, unlike other tech solutions out there where maybe it's like building a web page and it seems incredibly complicated and you need to get all this training, our stuff's like working off applications off an iPad. So you can see here some of the different applications. We got the chart builder, we got a specific project, page one. I mean, it's as simple as kind of toggle on and off, but I'm having a hard time showing it. It's not really formatted for this computer, but it's a matter of toggle on and off buttons. It's text box. It's clicking panels. I mean, this isn't like building a website. This is more like, whatever the most user-friendly kind of tech thing you use in your day-to-day life, that's this, right? We've built these softwares to be incredibly user-friendly and intuitive, and let's be candid, most people work in small and medium-sized local governments maybe don't skew on the most technologically savvy people, so we've built them from the ground up for those people in mind. And candidly, you do have very tech-savvy people in this administration, so this is just going to make their life easier. They don't have to take on hundreds of hours to understand a solution. They can do it in minutes. I have one client example pulled up here, the town of Chester in Warren County. During the onboarding process, aside from getting unlimited training and support, getting an assigned customer support representative with a name and an email and a phone number, and us doing all that heavy lifting of putting your data into the solution, we'll also do all the heavy lifting to get this on your website. So what we did for them, they had their website, and they asked us to create a button for them, and we did that. We created this custom button right here on their website, and it links right to their ClearGov page for their residents to access. And here's their actual page. they're using a basic profile. They're not using project pages or whatever, but they've customized it and they have some of their information in here. Another one of our clients is the Village of Rybrook in Westchester, who's actually a pretty comparable budget to the town of Wappinger. And they already had a section on their website. They have a pretty nice website. And they just linked, they created a button and they linked it to their website. To their profile. And they're actually, a big thing they're using it is the project pages. That's their big thing. So they obviously have it designated as a Village of Rybrook page.
So to sum up, what do you see as the real benefits, the value added to a community such as ours, Rob?
A community like this with 7,000 residents and...
No, for a town of Wappinger, 27,000 or so residents, and
Again, I think it's a few things. Number one, it's creating efficiencies internally, right? It's being able to empower your team to get the information to residents. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of local government, right? Is to be that conduit for the information that residents need to get. And this is just taking that process, which you're doing a good job, and really standing above the pack and being great, and really being transparent with, hey, here's the information, not just that you're looking for, but information you should know about. And not only knowing about it, but making sure it's digested and that you know about it moving forward. So communicating capital project page updates and capital projects, allowing your departments to get the information out to residents that they want to be able to communicate, and allowing them to do it themselves instead of having to rely on maybe an archaic infrastructure, and ensuring that you're telling your own story, that someone else out there isn't, that someone doesn't need to comb through a third-party source to figure out the information, that it's you telling the story, it's you being you housing that information for them to figure out. And quite frankly, it's allowing you to touch more residents who probably want to be touched, who want to have you in their day-to-day lives instead of them having to come to a town board meeting to find out that information.
So when I look at your site, and you know, we've got some pretty capable people working on our sites. You've got a free version and you're starting at 2,500. Why is the price point? I mean, is it just the sheer number of data we have, or I mean, why at 55 rather than the different, levels that you have?
I'm a little confused by your
Your
question.
price point, like I looked at your website.
Yeah.
You have a free version, you have a $2,500 version. We're at 55. Why?
The free profile you can get tomorrow, that basic one I showed you. I mean, you can get that infrastructure and start using it, but to use it for what your team wants it, I mean, they're the ones who I've been talking to for the last few months. They want to be able to communicate those project pages and stuff like that. So that's why you're paying for it, to be able to customize it, but more importantly, use those features that you want to get. At that price point, candidly, there is no other solution out there like this, and the ones that are out there that do maybe a small portion of this, they're a lot more expensive, and quite frankly, they're not user-friendly like this. The biggest thing about our solutions is that they're turnkey, right? So maybe you do find something out there like this that does maybe some of those things. I'm not going to guarantee, but I feel very confident in saying if you go to get that solution, one, you're probably going to pay a lot more money, and number two, trying to actually utilize it is going to require a massive amount of manpower to integrate it. There are no integrations. We built this to be turnkey so that, whether you want to use it for 10% of its capability, 50% of its capability, or 100% of its capabilities, you sign up on day one, you're ready to roll, and now you've taken your process from good to great.
any other questions?
I think from a marketing standpoint, marketing the town, I could see your point. Making certain information available to residents or to businesses, perhaps from a market analysis standpoint, I can see that. But a lot of what you spoke about, in my opinion, we can do on our own website. And there are levels of redundancy that I see here. People are using websites less and less. They're using social media. That's what they're using. They're not going to websites. Our town website has been totally redone. I think it looks great, but I'd be curious to know how many people actually navigate that website. Looking at your information, which I have seen before, it is impressive, but the the data that you have on that is being provided by us, correct?
Some of the data, right? The demographic info and your financials, you're providing that, you are providing that information, yes. I think two things. Number one, Councilman, I'm not sure what kind of statistic you're getting that from, but websites and mobile traffic is pretty prevalent. But to your point, you know, we're a transparent company. You know, if you get the solution and you determine that this doesn't really make sense for you, one, we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you go in, you design it, and you're thinking, you know what, we actually can do all this, and you know, I've peeled back the curtain, and you determine that really makes sense, you get your money back. Number two, we'll track all the visitors for you from this. And if you determine that, you know, it's a one-year subscription, it's $5,500, we're not talking about a lot of money. If you determine after a year...
I'll stop you there. It is a lot of money. We have to be careful here, being subjective to dollars and cents. I understand from a software perspective, it may be you know, a very affordable solution, I get that, but we have to really be sensitive to the fact that $5,500 a year, and I've said this for the last 14 years, when we get into these software type of agreements, the numbers don't go down. They go up every year, and you have basically explained that tonight, that this has a 3% built-in increase every single year. So if we're still using this in 3 years, it's 9% more than tonight, and we have to understand that. We have a responsibility to the taxpayers to make sure that if we're going to be spending money on a product like this, we don't already have the ability to provide this information with the platforms that we have in place now. So I am impressed with the graphics. I'm impressed with the way it presents. I do, from a marketing standpoint, and we just spent a lot of hours in training at the Association of Towns, and some of us were in the Economic Development Toolkit class where they talked about marketing your town. I could see it being valuable from that perspective. But I think we should discuss this further as a board and see if it's something we want to add on as we approach the next budget.
I think the last thing, and thank you for correcting me, I meant that from a comparative perspective in terms of dollars and cents to other solutions. What we found is a lot of our clients, a big reason they sign up is that, to your point, you're right, this is something that you could do. But it's not just a dollars and cents barrier to entry, it's a manpower and time commitment barrier to entry, right? A staff member on board, you know, most towns of your size, you're just asking someone to take on a second job, whether it's, you know, an extra 25 hours a week or 5 hours a week, whatever that is. What is that savings of that time commitment, right? So what our solution does is it allows you to take maybe stuff that you're already doing, but you don't realize that, you know, someone's spending 30 hours a week to update it and do all that. If they could take that 30 hours and translate it down to 5 hours, what is that cost savings internally for the town? So that's a really big reason people sign up with us, is that they make up money on the back end because of that time savings. And that's really the most valuable commodity for a municipality, is the time savings aspect of it, being able to communicate and get that information out to residents.
I want to thank you, Rob, for coming and sharing with us. We will talk some more, as I said at the outset, and as the councilman just said. So we'll get back to you after further discussion.
Well, thank you so much for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thanks
Really
for
appreciate
driving
it.
all this way from Long Island. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Jessica and Dawn, come on up and talk about, you know, resume the discussion that we had last meeting on when
Yes.
Dawn was unable to be here.
Very, very unfortunately, I'm
Yes.
glad there were no
But we're glad you're
car
okay now.
accidents tonight, so. Dawn's with us. Dawn's gonna talk a little bit. Oh, we're gonna switch microphones? You know, I finally remembered to use it.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, so I started talking about this a little bit at the last meeting. Dawn was unable to be here, as we said. There is an anti-bullying event that Dawn is interested in hosting, or helping us host at Schlott House Park, and I'll let her give you a lot of the details of it.
As we know, bullying is becoming a major epidemic. We are losing children at an alarming rate as young as 10 years old. I myself had my son, one of my sons who are on spectrum, at 8 years old, tell me that his bully was right and he no longer wanted to be here. There's absolutely no parent should have to go through hearing that. let alone have to bury your child because of somebody else's behavior. So when I went through this with my children, I decided that we needed to help children and teens get their voices back. And one way to do it is also to make it a fun way, and to make these children and teens and young adults know that they're not alone. Because oftentimes, you do feel like you're alone. You feel that people do not understand. I since joined up with Lou DeCosmo, and he lost his son tragically at 2 years old. He was beaten to death by his estranged girlfriend's live-in boyfriend. I admire Lou because he turned a tragic event into something positive. He formed Mason's Voice, and they help many, many different, thank you. There's also the original proposal on there, Jessica. They help, Mason's Voice helps many different groups of people now. They first only helped children and families of child abuse.
Thank you.
But they've now extended, they do Christmas toy drives for underprivileged families. Every year they host, on Mason's birthday, they host birthday parties at different locations, and the money that they raise go to different events for local, in Ulster, Dutchess, different events. They have pantries now. They have clothing closets. I've since joined his, Louis asked me to join his foundation for anti-bullying. So now they have an anti-bullying part as well. So what we are trying to do is to come up with a fun event. And we would like to bring it to Wappingers. And Wappingers would be one of the first locations around here to host such an event. And Mason's DeCosmo Foundation's mission is to be the voice of children who have been silenced by fear or by force. And they do this through education, prevention, intervention, and advocacy. Together with my passion to help children that are bullied regain their voices, we want the children of our communities to know that they are not alone and that we do hear them. The plan that we have discussed, Jessica and the supervisor and myself, is if the town of Wappingers provides a recreational field at a date that's convenient to Wappingers, and I think we had come up with one. The town of Wappingers and Mason DeCosmos Foundation would invite any type of vendors. Excuse me. And Mason DeCosmos Foundation will provide the DJs, live music, and food to be served. We would also ask the sheriff, the fire department, but I believe we also do have some connection with some fire departments.
She's looking at you.
Sure, of course.
If granted permission by the town of Wappingers, the use of the kitchen, Mason DeCosmo Foundation will be totally responsible for full cleanup of all areas in the kitchen and pavilion. Mason DeCosmos Foundation will provide groups for entertainment for children of all ages to teach them support tricks and coping techniques, as well as provide tents with educational resources and to help them, again, let them know that they're not alone. And it's not just for children, it may be for teens. We will reach out to the local chapters in our area and ask them to come on and have whatever educational material that they would be able to hand out. Mason DeCosmo's group will provide entertainment. We will have demonstration shows, musical shows, and I will be setting up a sensory area for children with special needs. Since my background is, before I became sick, I was a special education teacher. I am a special Olympics coach, so I still have that nick. So, and a lot of our special needs children are targeted. We are among the highest population for being targeted. Louis DeCosmo will be able to provide the jump houses, the vendor insurance. We are hoping to have motivational speakers. And as I mentioned before, this Wappingers will be one of the first towns to host this type of event. Even though we are gearing it towards children that have, and teens that have been bullied, of course it's going to be open to everybody. It's not gonna be just if you're bullied only, but hoping that children that have been bullied and they recognize the name, when they come together, they will see that they are not alone. Maybe they can meet other children, other peers that are bullied, form a connection. So if they are getting to a really low point in their life, by making a connection, they can hold on to just that one more point, just that one more time in life, and know that what they're feeling right now is momentary. And if they just reach out to one more person, we just might not lose another child. And we can, as a town and as a community, provide hope for someone's child.
Do we have a date picked out for this yet, Jess?
It's April 25th.
April 10th. I think this is more than worthwhile event for the town to get behind.
And this is at Schlott House?
Yes.
So I certainly support the cause as well. I think it's just figuring out how you do the logistics for this to make it all work, but certainly it's a great cause.
Right.
Dawn's got a lot of this laid out. The foundation that she's working with comes in with a lot of what they need to have this event. A couple of things that we would be assisting with is, soliciting for some volunteers, advertising, and one thing that they have asked is for the use of the kitchen inside Schlott House. There is a stove, there is a refrigerator, things like that. I don't see any kind of problem with that. They're providing us with insurance to have the event in general. I don't see any problem letting them use those facilities.
So is this a town event, or is this a Mason DeCosmo organization event?
It is a partnership. We're working together on this. I'm trying to give as much support as I can to make this go smoothly. It's being held at our park, and we want to be on board with causes like this. We can't necessarily, manpower-wise, be the people who are doing all of the legwork for every single one of these awesome events. And anytime you have the opportunity to be on the cutting edge of something, or the first that's doing something, partnering up with an organization with that experience and that passion for it, I think is a great benefit to the town.
No, I agree. However, if something goes wrong at this event, we're ultimately responsible. So we need to be either the leader of the event or not the leader of the event. There can't be, it's got to be definitive on whose event it is. Obviously, bullying is an epidemic, as you said, Dawn. Certainly, anything we can do to prevent that or educate the public about how significant this issue is, certainly you're not going to hear any objection from the dais, I'm sure. But from a responsibility standpoint, we need to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row for any of these events that we're doing. And whether we want to admit it or not, we own these events if they're in our park. Because if something doesn't work out, it's going to come back on the town. So certainly from an access and functional needs perspective, there's a lot of variables. If we're talking about April, we're dealing with potential soft soil. We're dealing with folks that may have wheelchairs. We're dealing with people that may have walkers. These are things that need to be discussed. All these, we need plans for access. We need to make sure that folks can get in and out. We need to make sure that parking is prearranged. There's a lot of planning that goes into a normal event, and when you're dealing with access and functional needs individuals, there's additional planning. So I want to make sure that if we're going to host this event on our property, that number one, we have enough staff to make sure that the property is prepped appropriately so that it can be utilized. The building at Schlott House is not ADA compliant. So if we're going to be hosting an access and functional needs event, I don't believe that meets ADA standards in 2020.
The use of that building is not a public use. It would be the foundation prepares and sells food, so things like that. So there is if there were an issue, there is a ramp going into that building. I don't consider it to be the most accessible building.
Right, but we have to, it's not, in a situation like this, we can't say, well, it might work. There could be potential for lawsuits if we don't make sure these things are fully accessible to all individuals that are going to be needing to utilize anything on that property. And from a town perspective, this is something that we need to make sure is buttoned up ahead of time. Because inadvertently, we could have a scenario where someone that's going to be cooking the food now cannot properly ingress or egress our building, and that can become exposure for the town. So in any case, we need to make sure that we have that conversation, that there's plans in place. The other thing is, if we have a wet spring in April, and we're 10 days out and we've just gotten all the rain we didn't get in precipitation this winter, we're going to have a problem. So we need a plan B, whether it be a rain date or whether it be a second location.
Yeah.
And these things sound like it's a given, but I don't want to be in a situation where we end up having to do something last minute. So
Right.
I certainly
I
support this
agree.
as long as the proper planning is in place.
And the other thing is, I think the date is too aggressive right now, April 25th, based on everything that has to be done in preparation. May you want to consider a date later on, especially, with everything that does have to be done, honestly.
I mean, we can discuss that. I think that perhaps, kind of giving us the go-ahead to just move forward in general. And part of what the partnership is between an organization that's hosting this and the town is, I've done all these kinds of events before. I've had to think about all of those kinds of logistics before. So that's the role that I play in helping them get this done. So,
Right, once we get a date, and Mason DeCosmo's foundation does have insurance, and he does have the vendor's insurance as well. But in order to get all of what we need done to go forward, we do need a date. So that's basically what, we can't move forward from our standpoint without getting some type of date. And that's with the rain date.
Jessica, if you look at the calendar, though, is there another date that's more optimal? Because I agree with Councilman Beal that, that April showers bring May flowers, so.
Right.
And not a lot of prep time from now either.
yeah,
We're way down on precipitation right now, so I'm just, statistically,
yeah.
it could
Or
the skies
do.
could open up.
I was having that talk before.
Right.
We've had snows
So-
into April sometimes,
Right,
so
so-
it could be coming.
Exactly, so that's why April's very aggressive based on everything.
I mean,
that
April
needs to be done.
20th
It
is-
might be something
Yeah.
down the
Yeah.
road, maybe,
If-
considering this is the first time we're ever doing
Yeah.
this.
Based on the recreation schedule, we would be talking outwards of mid to late June then.
That might be a better time
I
then.
agree,
Give you some
yeah.
prep time, et cetera, because there's a lot of groundwork
Dawn,
that's
is
got
that
to be laid.
doable?
Yeah. Let's see.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could have them come back to us at a future
Exactly.
meeting to discuss date options. rather than try to figure out right now, when is Easter this year? When is the Easter egg hunt?
All right, so actually, leading into what I was gonna be talking about next in the events that we have, going on, that we are either in partnership, one of them I talked about last time, or events that we are holding. We have, our Easter egg hunt, which is on April 4th.
Okay.
We have the Veterans 5K on the 18th. Bowling event was slated for 4:25. Pet Expo was 5:2. Native American Powwow was 5:16 and 17. Memorial Day is the
So
25th.
June's looking like
Yeah,
a better month for
also-
planning and,
Also, I'm out of town the first 2 weeks of June. I'm actually going on a vacation. So, from a support perspective of being able to help them do this, I won't.
So just from a calendar perspective, April 4th is the Easter egg hunt. What was the next event after that?
The next one is the 5K
Okay.
on April 18th.
When is opening day?
Opening day of Little League usually falls on the same day as the Easter egg hunt, which is the first weekend in April. We're later in the day than them. We don't conflict.
I don't remember it being on the same day as
Oh, a
opening.
couple of years it's.
but I,
Yeah, last year it wasn't.
Isn't this on the web? Isn't this on your calendar?
It is, yeah.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is, how many events can we feasibly be
Yeah.
maintaining here in a 6-week period?
Yeah, we're being very aggressive trying to get too many events in all in
No, I
one
agree.
month.
I think.
So I agree with
yeah.
Councilwoman Angela Bettina there. We should think about moving it out a little bit. Not that we don't want to do it, because we all think it's a great cause, but it's just the timing of, when can you actually do it and make it effective? Because there's a
I'm
lot of
concerned about
preparation
the
work,
weather, too.
yeah,
a lot
well,
of
that's-
preparation that goes
I
into
agree.
it too, as
Yeah.
Councilman Beal said. So it's not as simple as we may think it is.
And as it being the first one, we want it to be the best one.
Yeah, I mean, we want it to be great.
So I think you need to come back to us.
Opening
with
day
more
is the 18th,
discussions.
Bill.
Oh,
So
it's
the same day as
April.
the 5K then?
That's usually later than they usually do, which
According
that's
to
the
the-
same day as the 5K.
Is it-
Looks
It is the
like,
same day, right?
It's the same day as the 5K, not the Easter egg hunt.
Hopefully it's not at the same time.
We will kind of be running into each other at the end, but, a lot of the ceremonial aspects of that race are taking place pretty early, so in terms of the town board, your schedule is fine. I will probably have to skip opening day, but that's okay. But you guys will be fine in terms of scheduling, so.
Okay, I'm all for this initiative.
Same here.
I do too.
I think they should
All of
move
us are, I
forward and
think.
continue the planning process.
And come back to us.
So why don't you come back with a couple later dates? We'll have a meeting, in the next couple of weeks or so,
Yeah,
and we'll
in
see
2
which
weeks.
one works the best, and we'll try to.
See
try
what
to fit in.
Luticos, is able to do, okay? But we want to do it. I think it's.
Absolutely, we
just
wanna
getting-
do it.
And then some of the details that were discussed, Jessica, some more of the planning, you can also come
Yeah, I'll be working
back to us with.
Dawn on all of that.
I think it's
so.
great, but I think it's also great that we include parents. And this is very important because parents teach the children and let them know the newest techniques or help that is out there, and maybe canvass the schools.
Well, we originally, sorry. We originally.
Voice assistants jump in.
Originally, Supervisor Thurston and I and Sandra, we had originally way back when sat down, and then it just got to be too broad when we started to
I had to get
include
it
parents, and it just got to be too broad. So the best way to include parents when we first start out with the first event is to have the informational booth where the parents can come in and ask questions with, like, we can have the peer mediation from Dutchess County come in, and we can have other advocates come in where the parents can seek the help from there, and they can ask the questions there, because we were originally gonna start maybe having a parent course, and then go into the schools, but then what happens is it just starts to get to be too broad. And because what I'm seeking to do here is to make it more of a fun event the first time. Because what was happening, it was just getting to be too big.
But I think, sorry to interrupt, but I think Councilwoman Bettina's point is to make sure that we get other parents and so forth involved through your
Okay.
networks and others, and
Yeah,
The
move the
parents
coast.
are
They need to
paramount to be involved in this, because it's
Right.
their kids. They may
Right.
see things that are important that they're not, I just think the parents need to be part of this process.
No,
With
definitely,
you. Okay.
definitely.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're not rid of me yet.
No, you're not rid of us.
No. All right.
Go ahead.
So, this is the briefest of updates on Community Day. We made all attempts to connect and reuse the vendor that we had last year for the rides. Originally, in speaking with him, it was, I'm putting together my 2020 schedule, I'll get back to him. And since then, it's been somewhat, or it has been radio silence with myself, another person reaching out by email and by phone. So we've passed the date of courtesy before reaching out to someone else.
Hold on. I'm very confused.
Yes.
Last year, we directed you to reserve the rides for the same time this year, did we not?
Yes.
What happened?
So, in speaking with the rides provider, we used certain incentives to get them to commit for this year. When I spoke to them, it was, all right, well, we're gonna get back to you. It was a little rough financially for us, and we'll let you know in our 2020 schedule, and we can work this out with you. So, we made attempts to continue to book that company for this year. And we loved them. They were a wonderful company. We didn't really at that point, or even really at this point, want to work with anyone but them. But that time has passed, so.
Why am I hearing this for the first time now? I'm very confused. We had this conversation last year after Community Day. We had people speaking to the ride company, and my understanding was that it wasn't a problem. In fact, I'll go back and watch the meeting. That not a problem, we're all set.
Because we were, and that did
Well,
change.
Where's the contract then?
They would not sign a contract with us until they had their 2020 schedule laid out.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, we've gone through ride dilemmas every single year that I've been sitting here, and I don't understand what else could have been done to lock them in when we spoke to them last year.
The assurances that we got from them when the event was over last year were very promising. So when it's, let us look at our schedule and we'll confirm with you, you believe them, you know. So when the silence of communications starts, you keep trying as a professional courtesy because you did have somewhat of an arrangement with them.
I'll be honest with you, I deal with booking entertainment every single week.
Yes.
I've never seen anything like this. I mean, year after year after year, problem after problem after problem with securing rides. I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, now, so what do we do now? So where do we go from here?
The next steps are, now that we've passed that period of not breaking our trust with the people that we were hoping and planning on working with, reaching out to everyone again. But
Reaching out now, in February?
reaching out with, because again, as of about a month ago, it was still, we're gonna get back to you with the information and the approval and things like that. So what we're gonna be doing is we're going to be reaching out again to all of the companies. But what we're doing this time, since 4th of July weekend is not a feasible weekend, giving a date range. So the first last weeks of July and the first 2 weeks of August, which gives us a much higher rate of having a response when we're giving a date range as opposed to soliciting these folks and saying, we want you for this particular day.
Have we done an analysis to see what other events are going on?
That's part of what we narrowed down with those dates. Things that are happening right as school gets out and things that are happening in terms of vacation periods and such at the end of August.
What are other towns doing during that period of time?
During that period,
Right.
a lot of people are in the fall and spring. So the conflicts are not as great in the midsummer.
So I think what we need to do here is we need to take a look, see what dates she's got planned out there, see if the vendors are available, meaning the rides, and let's see if we can, take a look at the other calendars, some other communities, and see if those dates are available. Give a range of, 3 or 4 different weekends, figure out what we're gonna do, because we have to move forward now. We're already past the point of no return here on, July 4th. It's just not gonna happen. It's too late, so we've gotta come up with a plan B. That's
I'm
what we
just
need
not
to.
sure why we're finding this out now, I'll be honest with you. Why am I finding this out in the last week of February? I'm
Well-
very confused on this. We've had this conversation year after year after year. We have been in contact with ride companies year in and year out. When you get to February, we're way too late here again. And I don't wanna go through this whole thing, this whole debate that I've stood pretty solid ground on, that I'm not paying for rides.
Correct.
And now we're getting backed into the corner again, where we're gonna be put into a position where potentially we're gonna have to spend taxpayer dollars to bring entertainment to an event that, I was under the impression up until 5 minutes ago was under control, and that we had, the same, agreement as last year. In fact, I was told there would be additional rides this
Yeah.
year.
Those were all the conversations that happened in the time following that event, which made everyone very sure that this is what was going to be happening. I was confident. I think anyone who talked to the rides provider felt pretty confident that they were going to be our vendor this year. And through the
And their response is what?
Their response now, since they went silent on me, was that it was not a financially great event for them last year.
Okay. I mean, what we need to do, in my opinion, is explore the previous date in September that we know doesn't conflict with anything. If we start getting into August, it's not gonna work. You got the Dutchess County Fair in August, you got people going away in August. What I would say is, if we're in September, I don't think the school's gonna be an option now. And,
No,
It's
that's
not,
right.
no.
That's right.
this is, I'm not happy about this situation. I'll be honest with you. Not happy about this. I feel like deja vu all over again here.
And it does keep happening. These relationships with these rides companies have been tenuous every single time. Every single time that we have had assurances, every single time that we, even at one point, had a contract, okay? Things seem to fall apart with these companies. We get promises, we get assurances, we get contracts, and then it still kind of falls at the 11th hour. And that is exactly where we are again.
Well, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, Jessica, this is your responsibility. That
Absolutely.
you need to make sure that we have a successful event.
Yeah.
This is the flagship event of the year for the town, okay? It needs to be prioritized, in my opinion, above every other one of these 27 events we have scheduled. And my position is, why are we planning all these events if we can't even get our flagship event in order? Why do we have all these other events going on when we should be focusing, in my opinion, 150% of our energy on this event, which I'm finding out tonight has no rides, probably for the 12th time in the last 14 years
Yeah.
that we don't have rides. And to me, it's an epic failure on the part of our Parks and Recreations Department that this happens over and over again. Because whether you realize it or not, you're creating additional taxpayer expenses when we get into a situation like this, because now we have to spend money to try to find entertainment to fill the gap. Because if we don't have entertainment at the event, we're gonna hear it, because we've done that before, and it was not a good scenario. And renting inflatables as a Plan B is not the right thing to do. And I know we've discussed that. Mechanical rides is what people want. And I just can't believe on February 24th, I'm now hearing that, well, we haven't been able to get a hold of them, or they haven't gotten back to us, and, maybe we should have known this, 3 months ago. Because now I'm not confident we're gonna be able to find mechanical rides.
And 3 months ago, we did still have.
We didn't have a
the assur-
contract. There should have been a contract in place. There should have been, paperwork should have been done. There should have been something in writing that said, okay, we are committed to the town of Wappinger. But, I mean, it's in the past now, but now moving forward, we need to have an event that is going to be acceptable. That's my opinion, and I mean, I just feel like it's the same thing every year, this, you know, we end up in this situation. And I can't imagine other organizations or other municipalities go through the same thing. I see the same ride company at the Sons of Italy event every single year.
Yeah. No,
And
you,
hopefully-
you are absolutely correct. I think that starting probably about, you kind of hit the nail right on the head, about 15 years ago, we went through this phase of just constantly trying to revise the format of this event.
It's not a phase anymore now.
No, it's not. Now it is an annual occurrence of having to try to, I think the last time I spoke with somebody about Community Day, I was saying one of the hardest things is we need to finally get a format that's going to stick. We need a format that's going to stick so we can do this every single year. Because Councilman Beal, you are right on the money in that it should not have to be like this every single year. We run a multitude of other events, okay? Not exactly the size of Community Day, but what makes those events great and what's made them improve over a period of time is having a solid foundation. And it seems like every couple of years, the foundation is changed on this
Do we have a
event.
Community Day committee?
We have myself, we have Donna,
No.
and we are working on it. And once we have more specific tasks,
There should
to
be
be
a
able
committee.
to-
I mean, you know, there should have been a committee already at this point, and the committee should be reporting to you and reporting to us before February 24th. I'm not gonna belabor the point here, because I don't, we're already running late here tonight, but I think we need to, we really need to get our priorities straight, moving into this event. I don't wanna be distracted by these other events. As important as these other events are, this is the event of the year for the town, and we need to put 100% into this. And right now, I feel like we're not putting anywhere near 100% into this event.
So what I would suggest is, and just my opinion, but let's get the dates, whether it's June 20th, 21st, whatever date you happen to have there. Let's have a 2-week status every 2 weeks. Give us an update on how you're making out with the rides, et cetera, and come back to us. And if you need help, you gotta come to us. I mean,
You gotta send emails to us and let us know the status on a weekly basis.
okay.
Who you
We can do that.
contacted, what they've said as far as the rides and everything go.
I can do that.
And we need a committee put together.
I would say you need to have a
Okay.
committee established by this
That's,
Saturday
yeah.
at that workshop meeting.
And we need
And
to know who that is.
We need a plan by this Saturday to be
God bless
distributed to
you.
the town board, so that we can start moving forward here, because we're gonna be in March in a week.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We're gonna
if
run
we're
out of
talking about a
time.
June event, we gotta look at, you know, you're looking at, some of these weekends are college graduation weekends,
Yes.
high school graduation weekends. There are conflicts that exist out there that we can't go up against.
And we've examined a lot of those. June 22nd was one where,
Just come back to us.
Yeah, just come back on Saturday.
If you can come back on
yeah.
Saturday, it would
I-
be greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
I am unable to be
Okay, if you can't
here.
make it, if you can please put together a memorandum and a package of information for each
Yes.
board member for us to review
just send it to
on
us.
Saturday. I'd rather than email that, if you can give us a tangible
Right.
packet to have for that
Yeah.
meeting, so that we can take it and absorb it and digest it a little bit, I think that'll be a good start.
Okay, I can do that.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Excuse me.
Right now in our department, our program is Municity, and it's an antiquated program that's based on and stored on our server. After New Year's, our program crashed on 2 of our clerks. It gave me problems and also on 2 other computers. When I spoke to the programmer, only the owner or partner can fix it. All the other programmers there are working on their cloud-based program. So I looked into what's going on. Part of it is that it's antiquated. The other part is that now we're on Windows 10, and that's causing glitches in it. So every time Windows 10 sends out an update, which is about once a month, we run the risk of crashing. So it's getting harder and harder to fix things. So I asked them for, and I sent you all an email with a proposal for next year. The problem is, I also sent you their answers. If this crashes, they hope to be able to fix it, It would be on certain computers, they just don't know. So I'm just bringing this to your attention,
How long have we had Municity?
about 8 or 9 years.
I remember this.
Okay, so just some of the highlights, if we choose whether it's this year or for next year, it would be cloud-based, it would free up all the storage on our server. It includes GIS, it has a lot of things that we don't have now that would be beneficial. GIS is great, and unfortunately, when we use Municity, we have to actually go to the town website to use it, or to the county. It's also word-based, so it's a lot easier to use for people. It would help with us writing tickets, it would help in so many ways. So yes, of course, it's a much better program for us. The biggest problem is what do we do now when we're having problems? Every day, all of us, when we're on Municity, keep getting errors that we have to click out of. Krista and Susie, who are the clerks, who do most of the input of information, they're having problems where they have to close it down and start it again.
Do we pay for support?
Yes, we do.
Okay, why is it not fixed?
Well, we're trying to, but every time it happens, we're days away.
That's unacceptable. We're paying X amount of dollars a year for support for Municity, and it's crashing on Windows. So is there another operating system it can run on? What's that?
No, we weren't really having problems till all the computers were switched over to 10.
So
Yeah,
what's
you
Craig
can't go back-
Roberts?
And we
You can't
can't
go
go
back
back.
either. Once
Right.
you switch, you can't
Now
go
you
back.
use the software
So
license.
why is the software not compatible with Windows 10 then?
Because they said it's antiquated, and they're dropping
What
the
is?
date. The program we have now
The
is
program.
Enterprise.
Municipal
But we're still paying for the support.
Right, so I came back after New Year's, the girls in the office had no way of using their computers for Municity, which is our lifeblood. So they were using Susan's computer, I went to use mine, it didn't work, and one of the women said, well, we keep calling them, they say they're working on it. So I called them and said, this is unacceptable, we're a municipality, we can't be down.
We can't be the only municipality having these problems.
I asked about a lot of municipalities locally, they're in the updated program,
So there's a new version of Municity that's cloud-based.
yes. And that's
Okay.
what they're pushing everyone to. They will close Enterprise and stop using it as of December 21.
So are we paying an annual cost for the software updates or the maintenance of that? Is it still the same $4,200?
I'm not sure, I think it's $2,000 a year.
Okay.
Oh, that's nothing. In the past, we were paying tens of thousands of dollars in
Right.
support. All right, so what we need to do is look at the cloud version of it.
Right.
And talk to Craig Roberts, find out, can we take the data from the local version to the cloud
So I
version?
talked
They
to
can.
Craig.
We've
Oh, you
done
did?
Yeah, what did
Craig?
he
They
say?
can.
So it's a 2 to 3 month conversion. They will take all our data, it's included.
Correct.
Move it all over to the cloud base, and then before they're ready to go live, they'll come in and start training
So
everyone.
they can do like a parallel testing, so old system, new system,
Right.
make sure everything
Until
works.
everybody,
It's
and
all there.
everyone's used to using it, and then we're good.
So I have a different question, that you may or may not know this, but the cost is $20,000, and it's a $4,200 annual, I'll call it maintenance upgrade fee after the first year. Why would we pay as part of the $20,000, the annual maintenance cost in the first? Because typically, when you buy equipment, that's usually included in the price already, and then what you do is you pay the annual cost after that.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, why are they charging us an extra $4,200 in there? It should be $16,000, is what I'm kind of thinking, so.
Well, I got the proposal.
No, I saw the
That's
proposal,
something-
and I
If we decide
think
to
that
move forward, whether now.
typically, when you buy that, that's what happens.
That's, yeah.
That's a
something-
standard contract. I know that's
So-
not you, but
Right, so at first I was looking at it for next year. My fear is that we're still having issues on a
gonna go
daily
down.
basis.
This year,
Here.
yeah.
You know, like I told Mr. Thurston, your dishwasher goes the day you're having company.
Right.
So
well, I don't
I'm
disagree, we
afraid
don't
of
need it. I'm
June or
just wondering
July.
about the cost of this. It just seems like, you
Yeah,
know,
I-
the maintenance cost.
I think what Mr. Casella was saying, we should start paying the maintenance the year after. it's
Yeah, the
installed.
second year
Oh, I
is typically
agree.
when we do it.
Right, but that's not gonna help us now. That's
Can we
the
get
problem.
somebody in here from Municity to give us a presentation?
Yes, I can call him
Okay.
tomorrow.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Have him at the next meeting.
Yeah. In the meantime, though, we gotta make sure we're protecting ourselves from data loss, so Craig should be
Right.
backing
And
things
that's
up.
Well,
what
you
we're-
guys back things up. right?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
sure
Craig
Craig
has
is
been
backing
back
us up
now.
daily.
Yeah, I
So-
mean,
So for the board's knowledge, and Bill mentioned it, when the town originally acquired the Municity system, it did so with a number of municipalities in Dutchess County. It was part of a county consolidated
Like a group
services
rate kind of
grant.
thing?
So, you know, and I know Hyde Park, I don't.
Union Vale.
Union
there's
Vale.
quite a few.
There was probably about 8 or 9. I believe Hyde Park spearheaded it. at the time. And there was probably about 8 or 9 municipalities that participated in it together. So, and my understanding is what Barbara had said is most of the other municipalities have transitioned to the cloud-based version. It's designed to be used by the building inspectors out in the field. So you could do, on an iPad, you could go in and do your building inspections and things like that. And do we
Even now,
use?
if we have iPads, and so with those, if we take a picture with it, it's integrated immediately into the grid file. So there are a lot of pluses. With this program, if we chose down the road, we could also get printers, Bluetooth printers. They could actually print tickets, order the remedies, inspection reports, everything right from the car. So there are a lot of things, of course, you can add on later. But the other thing, just so you know, when and if we do go with this, one of the concerns I've been having is the financials, and I like the fact that this speaks to Edmunds, which is our controller's program, which would be nice. So almost on a daily basis, weekly, however Frederick would want, he could see our money. We wouldn't have to then bring it to Joe.
Right.
So there's a lot of pluses as far as going cloud-based, but this is just, I'm bringing it to you because I'm really just worried with the way it's acting in the office at this point.
Sure.
So I wanted Barbara to highlight that to us tonight, so we can get moving along with it.
Absolutely.
Because we're afraid it's going to crash. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I'll
Okay.
have,
You
I'll
move
have
forward
the
on.
gentleman
Yeah.
here on March 9th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ask
Yeah.
Craig to come to that meeting also.
Yeah, we'll have
please.
Craig come.
To that meeting.
Yeah. Don't go down. Don't sit down. Why don't you stay up? For the first resolution, okay? Yeah, so we'll move into the resolution since that's the last of the scheduled items there. The resolution 2020-40, this is a resolution appointing the deputy zoning administrator. Maybe you could talk about that, first. We've talked before, but why
Right.
don't you discuss a little bit before we get a motion and second?
So this position we discussed during the budget season, this position would be somebody who'd work under me and would watch what I do. I'd basically be teaching this person so that eventually someday it all worked out for that person and the town. That person would assume my job. It also helps us put more into property maintenance. Normally, the building inspectors have been doing a lot of it, but we have 2 new ones who are still learning their really main job of being a building inspector. So this would put more emphasis on property maintenance this spring when it's at its height.
So this position has been civil service approved. Sandra's reviewed that. Jim has gotten the documentation, related, to the paperwork, for that, correct, Jim? And you've taken a look at that, so.
Yes.
I'd like to bring up one other thing. This person would take the escrows with her, which have been quite an issue over the last few years. Just
Few
to
years?
I'm being flooded. Just to segue, if we go with Municity cloud-based, it has an escrow program. So right now, the planning board secretary inputs all the information into Municity. Then she writes it all on report sheets. Then she sends it to the accounting department, and the person doing escrows has to create her own records. With the new Municity, when the planning board secretary creates it, now it's in there, everything is already there to watch, so it should cut down the time by copious amounts of hours, but also you can send statements that way. So where somebody would have to physically generate statements by hand through Word, the computer now would track everything. So there'd be a lot less chance of error. At a moment's notice, this program does a lot of reports. So more to that job, it would cut down escrows to a small segment of their time.
And the person we're proposing has been the one that's really cleaned up the escrow, got it organized, working with everyone here, but especially Barbara's group, to get it down into a very manageable process, which we've already been testing with respect to other developers and individuals, and I think it's working, quite well, actually. So it's almost caught up, I think, right,
Getting
Barbara?
there.
Just
We're getting
the hair off, so.
So the deputy zoning administrator, it looks like there's a line item out there, but there's $0.
Yeah, I'm
in the
gonna
budget
give you
for
the
it.
amount. It's, $23.10 per hour. That's item number 2 after the therefore clause. And the total amount is $42,042.
And how was that developed? Is that
Barbara? we just, as far as the amount,
Yes.
Barbara, wanted to have it around 42,000
Okay.
to be competitive.
This is a non-union position, or is it still not spoken to in the union contract?
It's not spoken to in the contract, so
So how does that
basically
work?
what the contract says is any new position that's created
Has to be negotiated?
has to be, agreed upon between the parties.
And we're in the process of negotiating that contract.
So this is also civil service provisional, we understand the stipulations relative to that?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I have no objection, however, there is a typo from line B0917, should say unallocated B fund balance,
That's
correct?
correct, yes.
Jim's pointed that
Yep.
out already.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Well, it wasn't corrected on the.
Wasn't
paper that
corrected.
Went out already,
Right.
but Joe's already corrected it
Right.
in the system.
Now, the 42,000, that's the annual salary,
Yes.
so that should be prorated for 2019,
the remaining pay periods?
so, for the remaining pay period. So
Correct.
the allocation would be roughly 39,000.
All right, so I'll move to amend the resolution with the corrections, as well as the 2310 rate and the $42,042, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yep.
So, in addition to that, I'd like to stipulate within one of the resolves, as Jim just said, that this is prorated for calendar year 2020, just so we understand
Mm-hmm. Right.
that the remaining pay periods will be paid once she is put into that position, and this is your recommendation, correct,
Yes.
Barbara? So I stand with the amended resolution.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in
Just-
favor?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
One other, for the record, that's just, so because this is a provisional provision, there's only 2 people on the list.
Right.
So the applicants, or the proposed candidates' resume was sent up to Dutchess County. It was reviewed, and they considered that she has met the qualifications
Oh, good.
for the,
Okay,
for
great.
the position, so that when the test does come to pass,
She can take it.
she can sit
Yeah.
for the exam.
All right,
Yeah,
let's-
Barbara and Sandra had worked on that very closely with civil service.
Because that was one of my concerns,
Yeah. Yes.
that
Yep.
I didn't want the person to be in the position, so.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing all the legwork.
Yeah, and Sandra too. I mean,
Yeah, thanks. Thank you,
Barbara and
everybody.
Sandra did a lot of work there on that. Okay, the next item is Resolution 2020-65, a resolution urging the state legislature and governor of New York to amend or repeal the new bail reform. I'd like to request that it be tabled to the next meeting so we can tighten up the resolutions and add some more specificity as relates to the town.
Out of respect, I'll agree to that.
Hmm?
I'll
Oh,
agree to
okay.
that.
So
Thank you.
somebody moved to table it. It probably should be the sponsor.
Well, I move the table. Oh,
Oh, you-
he's the sponsor. Yeah.
I'll move the table till next.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion passed, thank you. The next item is Resolution 2020-66. This is appointment of maintenance labor positions by Steve Frazier. Steve, would you like to talk about it before we have a motion on it?
Sure. We had a few issues with the candidates that I had selected. We do the best we can to verify that the information they provide on the application is accurate and everything checked out, and then come to find out that it wasn't all that accurate. So I have.
Well, I would say it was do some very good due diligence that we're ongoing doing with any new appointment, and Steve was fully involved in that, so due diligence really worked.
So how many candidates that were previously approved are now going to be replaced?
Correct.
How many, 2?
2.
Okay. All right, I have full faith in the supervisor of buildings and grounds, so how about these new candidates? Any,
So far, so good.
okay.
And we've done some further investigation, and they've passed those as well.
All right, so based on your recommendation, I'll move to adopt 66, which includes those 2 employees.
Second.
Just out of curiosity, the second one on number 4 in the appointment, that's replacing somebody who's out on,
Not replacing, but
Or
filling
leave.
that slot while the employee's on disability.
okay, and they're aware of that, right?
That's
That it's a
correct.
temporary?
Made them
Okay,
very much
okay.
aware of it.
And I'll note that the disability is not as a result of a, town job-related incident. It was a personal one, but we're still working, as it were. In
Okay.
that sense, Steve is.
I just want to make sure we're
Yep.
funded, and we are, so it's good.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
The next item is Resolution 2020-67. This is a resolution to authorize the naming of private common drive for Cohen subdivision. Barbara, do you have any comments on it?
This is a three-lot subdivision, and there's already a house there, so this will be 2 additional lots, and it's a private drive. I sent the names that the developer wanted up to the county, it was approved, we just need to accept it, and then I'll send it back to the county. And we'll-
I like that street name.
Panorama.
Panorama Place.
Oh, it does.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Just a question, I guess probably for Councilman Beal, since you've been around for a while. Is it generally the naming left to the developer, or is there some code provision that we should consider on a more general naming principle, like for historical reasons or for some other purpose, or we just leave
Usually,
it?
it's the property owner makes the recommendation. There have been a couple times we've made a recommendation of a change back because it was too close to another name. The
Right.
purpose of the, it says Dutchess County Enhanced 911. It's actually real property addressing that reviews these. They make sure there's no conflict in another close vicinity with a street name. So,
Okay.
from an historical perspective, we've taken some of the previously named roads that have generic names and renamed them. We have a lot of streets in our town that have old in front of them.
Right.
And that can become confusing at 2:30 in the morning when you're responding to a call. We had, how many old Route 9s at one point? And old state roads.
Right.
And I could tell you at least twice, I've shown up at the wrong house on an old Route 9 for a medical emergency. Now we've changed the numbers so that
Right.
the 500s are over here and the 200s are over here. But it does happen. So Sergeant Palmetier Way obviously is a former old Route 9 location. And then there's a bunch of old state roads, and we should, and I've said this in the past, if we have historical names, like on some of the old maps from 1867, for example, there's old parcels that could be adopted to some of those old state roads, we should look at that. Just understand that when you're gonna change a street name, before you bring it up here, you wanna go out and talk to the folks.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Because you wouldn't think it's a big deal,
No, it is.
but it is,
Yes.
Understood.
so.
Yeah.
And when you are developing something, the developer proposes the names of the streets, and then it goes forward.
Okay, thank you. Next resolution is Resolution 2020-68. This is a resolution appointing a water meter reader for the town of Wappinger. This, I believe, was discussed at previous meeting when Leanne was here. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here, tonight. So the resolution is, the rates are consistent with our previous resolution on water meters, which divided into 2 elements.
Was this her recommendation?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Then I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next resolution, last resolution on the official agenda is Resolution 2020-69, approval of the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Moving into items for special consideration, new business. Highway Superintendent Sheehan's here to discuss the list for road paving proposal.
You all received the list?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the list that I received was 2021.
That's, I got that one. I sent you 19, 20, and 21.
It's all in the same email.
Oh, okay.
It's just down farther in the email, that's all.
All right, give me a second here, I'll pull it up. It came from Carol?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have a copy if you want
Yeah,
a copy.
I can give you a
Yes,
copy
there we
right
go.
now, Bill, you want.
if you give me the 2020, that'd be good.
I got all 3 of them here.
For some reason, I couldn't open that.
Yeah, so this is what we saw already before. Now you have a
Yeah.
price for it now.
Yeah, the prices are there now.
Okay.
And I'm still working with, Tom and Tim on the, for 21, the prices, but those are the roads that I think need to be paved.
So 5.28 miles, roughly 1.2 million? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I still have nothing in Ward 1, so I can't support this list because I have to lobby for Ward 1, and there's nothing.
I know you had brought up Old Troy Road, Bill, but that needs, I tried contacting you at one time, and it needs more work than just paving.
Right.
So again, I've been working with Tim and Tom on that.
I mean, we were gonna break that road down maybe into phases, because it looked like there's a couple areas structurally with retaining walls, there's drainage, there's possible widening for the Greenway Trail, there's a historic house, so there's a lot going on that.
Well, it doesn't have to be that road.
So you have a couple places though in 2021, if you look at it, you have Susich Place and Old State Road, Bill, if you wanna look at that.
Yeah, but that's not gonna help me in 2020.
No, but my point is maybe pull it into 2020.
Old State Road East
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Susich
that road's
Place.
in real bad shape, Bill, too. Suchik is in bad shape.
Right.
So I can move, is that what you're looking for, move a road?
What's the objective, what's the spending objective we're trying to meet here for paving? Is there a spending or a mileage number, or what are we trying to reach?
No, usually it was just like 5 miles, I guess I was told.
That's the target.
In 2021, it's a little more than that. It's 6.72.
We did 7 miles though in 2019 though, right?
Yes,
So,
7.35.
7 point.
Right, but are we trying to spend less than $1.2 million? Is that what we're trying?
No, I was just told 5 miles, Bill,
Okay.
so,
Are we milling all these roads, or?
some of them, yes.
Some of the previous, then you have to go back to, right, for drainage and.
Yeah, yep.
is there a rough calculation that says if you do X number of miles, it's X amount of dollars? Like, we've got 2 roads on here that Bill could potentially look at, that's .35 and .39 miles. Is it X amount of dollars per, so we can kind of calculate how much more it would be on, above the $1.2 million for the 5.28 miles we're looking to do? What I'm asking, is it 100,000, is it 200,000? How much more do you think it might be if we had to do one of those 2 roads that shows up here in 2021?
Oh, yeah.
If you pull into 2020?
Oh, yeah, like throw Suchik over there or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure it could be done.
But how much more?
How much
Oh,
more
yeah,
is it?
I'd have to
Per
look at
mile,
that.
is there an estimate?
That's what I was looking
tenth of
for,
a
like
mile?
something.
That's what you're looking at.
Exactly.
.35 at the,
I mean, listen, if there's other roads that need them before Susich Place and Old State Road East, obviously I want you to do the roads that need it more.
right.
But if you look over the 3-year period here, you're seeing a total of about 4 miles in Ward 1 and about 50 miles in Ward 2, 3, and 4, so.
And I do have expressed the similar concerns as a councilman as well.
I'm his councilman, so
Yes.
I'm advocating for him.
Although I try to look at the whole town, but I agree, you know, Bill.
What's
Right,
wrong with that
uh,
picture? That looks pretty good. That's over on this end.
I'm sure you guys are happy with this report.
Not as
Bill, I
happy
mean,
as he
you've
is.
got a lot of roads that have been done
You
in the
know,
past. I mean, you're almost
point.
perfect, you know?
Fair point. There's less,
But-
there's less
But I would,
miles in my
I
ward.
would say we, you know, maybe we should look at Old State because there is a lot of that traffic going on
Yeah.
in that area as I observe, you know. But I don't know from a school bus or other point of view, which one, Suchit or, you know, Old State would be
Why
better.
don't you look and let us
If you'd
know?
let us know.
Well, what I would
Just
say,
come back
what I
to
would
us.
say is this: if Susich doesn't need to be paved now, let's hold off because we don't want to pave it now and then have all this
Old
traffic
Hopewell
on
Road,
Old,
right,
on
exactly.
Old Hopewell Road getting pushed
Right.
on Susich and
Yeah,
Losi
I
after we
agree.
just paved
Agreed.
it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So let's not do that right now. Wait till they get that project done or close to it
Close
before we
to
start
it.
putting money into town roads
Right.
that could have a lot of traffic on
Agreed.
them. Right? So if you can throw me an Old State Road East, if you can evaluate that,
Yeah.
because part of it's in your ward too.
Yeah.
I'm only concerned about the part in Ward 1, but if you can,
Hey,
if if you can take a look at that.
That's okay, I'm gonna sign up for your slot in 2021 if you take that.
I think it would be helpful, and I don't know if I've ever seen this number, is the breakdown of the highway miles in the town by ward.
Well, no, he's done that. Overall highway
Overall.
miles.
Right.
Oh, that'd be interesting to see, because remember. Right. Two of my districts are the village, and they're village roadways and
Right.
state roads.
So could you do that for us?
Two districts.
Good, that'd be
One and
good to
two.
see.
Used to be three, they changed it to.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
So when do we need to make a hard decision by?
Well, you want to get started.
Yeah, when do you wanna
pretty-
get started?
When the asphalt plant's open, you
Well, yeah,
want
he
to.
can already start.
You
It's
can
just-
start,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
well, I
just
think
has to
that's
make
what
a
he wants to
decision.
know, if we
Yeah.
would
Gotta do
approve
prep
at least
work.
some list to get them started.
Do we typically bond 1 year, 2 years? How far out do we look when we look at this?
So in the past, so we've had some discussions. There's some money, right now, what's in the budget, which is allocated was based on, actually was conservative, based on the CHIPS money that was received last year, which
So 223,000 to start, something like that.
ballpark is what's typically allocated in the budget. What we've done in the past was we've bonded for 2 years at a time, and, to make up the difference. I believe that the bonding was exhausted.
Yes.
The last bond.
That's correct.
Was
Right.
exhausted. So you would be bonding for 2020, 2021.
Correction. So there's two Old State Roads.
Yeah.
Not the one that goes into your ward. That's
hey,
Old State
hey,
Road
hey.
South, right? Oh, that's just Old State Road. Old State Road East is behind Poughkeepsie Nissan.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I had the wrong Old State Road,
Yeah.
so.
Do them both.
Yeah, the other one was done.
There's no traffic on
Do
that road,
them
though.
both. Excuse me?
Listen, it's no track, but it's in real bad shape. I mean, you can take a ride by it. The other one was paved not too long ago.
All right, so I don't have a problem with the highway superintendent being authorized to start the process, right? Based on the seed money, which we could say is CHIPS money, $220,000, right? And then from a bonding perspective, we can determine what the final number's gonna be, once we get to that point. Is that fair?
I mean, one of the things that was discussed regarding the improvements to the highway garage is CHIPS money is available for capital equipment
Right,
and capital.
correct. Unless you
I mean,
have
one
that
of the
money
things on the garage, on the highway garage side, that's an A-fund expense. So, we had, some discussions that, there is fund balance in B fund. So, you could certainly, right now that's, and the money that's allocated for paving right now is listed as CHIPS money. Technically, it's not. CHIPS money is a revenue. CHIPS money is not an expense.
Right.
So right now, there's 220 some odd
Yeah.
dollars budgeted for paving work,
Right.
which
It's just a pass-through
right,
number.
so that's the number, and whatever, wherever the CHIPS money comes, right now it's budgeted as a revenue in the DB fund, but certainly the town board has the ability
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
to amend it, to amend the budget to put it in, if it so chooses. I
It can
mean,
come into A?
It can come into A.
Yes, that's what we
See,
determined it.
That's the other thing, you also gotta consider what's gonna happen with this AIM money.
I agree.
Post-April.
That's right.
If this AIM's gonna come into, to B, right?
Yep.
That's another whole thing that we have to worry about, where we're gonna make up that
Yeah, based on what we're hearing at
$250,000.
AOT, it's.
Yeah, so
strong
the AIM
likelihood.
money is I forgot what it stands for, but it's the state aid.
Aid to something municipalities, I don't
And,
know what the
and
I
they
is.
want to take it, instead of it making it A-fund revenue from the state, they want to make it sales tax money from the county, which might already be existing as revenue. That's we got to
Correct.
watch out for. Okay,
And-
now,
Yep.
now you're going to get that money that you already got, that you're already getting, so that
And
could
for
be.
us, with the complication of the village.
Right,
we
so
get-
with the village, we'll get their piece and we'll get our piece, but we won't be able to use it for the same thing,
No.
so.
Nope.
So I think we need to look at, first of all, what are we gonna use the CHIPS money for? There have been some buzz about a capital project, relative to the highway garage, so if we're gonna do that, then we need to understand that we're gonna need fully bonded money for the paving, correct?
Right.
Mike, did Tilcom post a price per ton yet for this coming year?
No.
That's what I was gonna point out, this 2020 estimate's based on the 2019.
Yeah,
So where's it
Right.
going, up or down?
most likely up.
And the other thing, since we are talking about bonding for 2 years out, I would, Tim, like you to look at that Old Troy Road because, you know, it is in need of repair. I mean,
We'll break it
structural
up.
repair.
And
Mike and I have talked about it.
I could see that being an undermined issue with the way that water runs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And the freezing, you know, there on that side with all the springs and the, you
So
know,
I'm not, I think it needs attention, but I can understand why we don't want to lump it in on this.
agreed.
That's a,
But if we're bonding, we may need to consider it in that context, rather than lumping it in with this.
we need to make sure that
Yeah.
the structural integrity of that road is.
That's right.
Is good
That's
too.
my concern.
That thing is,
That's big time.
that's a mess over there.
Yep.
So
Lot of
just getting,
traffic.
just getting back to the,
Oh, yeah, I tell you.
just getting back to the CHIP money, right? You said that can go into the A fund, so if we decided to, as I
Including
know,
school bus.
Tim has brought forward a project where we can do an extension of the back of the highway garage. Can you use that money, the CHIP money, for capital expense on that particular
Why-
area?
I mean,
Why
again,
don't we
it's.
discuss some of this on Saturday?
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's,
fine.
right, so,
We
yeah, because,
because you gotta get into prevailing wages and stuff. There's a whole philosophical
Okay.
debate we could have, but that's a good point, though. And it sounds like a great conversation for Saturday.
Yes, it does. So let's do that.
All right, I'll reach out to all yous tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you,
All right.
Mike.
Thank you.
Fine,
we,
thank you.
we
Thank you.
had two other items for discussion, but we need to go in executive session to talk about,
If I,
you know,
the resolution for Wildwood Sewer,
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah, that's, well, okay, we can do that now. But, well, why don't we
We'll do
just?
it, just
you-
do it.
You
Do
can make it? Okay.
Do it.
Okay, go ahead then. Jim, you know, let's talk about the resolution.
okay,
for
so,
Wildwood Sewer.
so there's two resolutions. One is,
And you have documents here that Jim had sent.
so these were prepared by bond counsel. As we've discussed it at some length, this is what's termed as a 202B improvement. So based on the map plan and report, which was previously accepted by the town board, the maximum estimated cost of the project is $5,566,000. And so in the first resolution, which is the order, the public interest order, that's just the maximum cost. So again, that would be reduced by the grants and aid. Right now, we're looking at, I believe it's a 40% 40% reimbursement of that cost, whatever the.
So like 2.3 million, right?
Right.
2.2 million, okay.
So, so the first resolution is the order, the public interest order, and then after the adoption of the public interest order, is the bond resolution for the project. Again, it's the same amount, $5,566,000. That's the total cost. The bond resolution doesn't break it out by fund, doesn't break it out by district.
Right.
It just looks at the overall cost, because for purposes of issuing the serial bonds, it's based on the full faith and credit of the town, and then the various the district, and if Wood Hill Green comes in, or other properties come in, then, those costs would be appropriated at that point in time. So again, and in here, in section 2, it says, so it's, section 2 talks about the cost of the project, $5,566,000, provided, however, to the extent that any grants and aid are received for such specific object or purpose, the amount of the bonds to be issued pursuant to this resolution shall be reduced dollar for dollar.
And, I'd like to just note, Tim and I, and also Mayor Matt, we've been having some good discussions with the state grant authorities, including EFC, and so we will be resubmitting, after we have more discussions with them on that. I think we do have this big challenge because we have actually altogether, 6 different, sewer plants in this town, including 3 private ones that are all going into the watershed, including, I didn't realize until the other day that Montclair, has one that actually goes there. So, we have a big challenge, but I think we have some very good relationship going forward with the grant authorities, so we'll be working that to further reduce this, amount. So right now, as we're looking at it, this is what we see as the maximum amount for it.
So I do have one question, because I thought last time we talked it was 6.2 million. Now it's 5.566.
6.2 was the total project, including Wood Hill
With
Green.
Wood Hill.
And
Okay.
as we met with EFC, we explained we're gonna break those two apart, and we're calling this Phase 1, so this amount is strictly town infrastructure.
So it's only another 300,000 to 400,000 for Wood Hill then? That's all it is?
That'll still be a cost for them to connect. We're building in excess capacity,
So
so
they
their
can-
buying can help again while they'll be at a
Right, it's
cost.
not contemplated in the numbers that you have here.
Right.
I got it.
And so the grant is for 40% of the total project cost, so it would be the 40% of the.
So 40% can go up to 2.48 million, so it was calculated originally on the Wood Hill Green element. So Mayor Matt and I and their CPL and so forth will be going to them and talking about them to share in that cost. But as Tim correctly noted, the size of the pipe will be designed to take in that capacity as well as other capacity, future capacity.
And so with respect to the letter from the CFA people,
Right.
Environmental Facilities Corporation, this project was put in for a grant in the consolidated funding application process for 2019. It did not receive an award, but we certainly have the ability to put it back in 2020. So to the extent any additional grant money comes in, that would be reduced, because this doesn't, it just leaves open-ended as far as what grant monies are available.
And they're aware we're going to be resubmitting those grant applications, actually 3 of them altogether.
And for the residents that are watching, and I know one reached out,
Right.
Why are we doing this right now? We need to do this process right now in order to stay eligible for the 40% reimbursement.
Correct.
Correct?
That's right.
And also to stay out of a DEC consent.
Yes.
Right, and to stay out of the DEC violation consent order, which exists on that existing plant right now. So we're moving forward, we're
Yeah.
being transparent in this process. There's gonna be more opportunities for residents that live in this district to ask questions as we move forward, but we have to adopt this resolution this evening.
Correct.
So that we can stay within the eligibility requirements of the 40% reimbursement rate, which is very important.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second? All in favor?
Well,
Aye.
so for purposes of the record, there should be one vote on the public interest
Okay.
order as a roll call vote, and then the
Okay.
bond resolution also requires a roll call vote.
Okay, so then the first resolution, will be
The public interest
The public interest, which is the first part of the ORIC document,
Right.
correct? It's
Yes.
called in matter of the increase and improvement of facilities of Wildwood Sewer District in the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York, public interest order.
So I'll move the public interest order 2020-70.
I'll
Second
second
it.
that.
Okay, now you have to do a roll call.
Correct. Aye.
Yes, yes, yes.
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 And then I'll yield to my colleagues for the bond. It's on their side of
I
town.
move that.
Okay. So this is a resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $5,566,000 bonds of the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York, to pay the cost of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Wildwood Sewer District in the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York.
I move it.
There's motion second? Huh? He moved.
Chris moved it.
Chris,
I'll second it.
okay, okay.
Councilman Beal.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bettina.
Aye.
Councilman Phillips.
Aye.
Councilman Casella.
Yes.
Supervisor Thurston.
Yes. Okay, motion
All
passed.
right, now we can
Thank
move
you.
forward on that.
Okay.
I've got a quick
Can you hold
question
out?
about the bonding and grants for these projects. Seems like the bigger the project, the more grant money and the more access to funding. Can you, so we got this one project, we've got other projects, obviously, we've talked about in the past. 3 years down the road, we're into a second major project. Can you use these as phases, or are you locked in, we're done here? And then it's not, you know what I'm getting at? Because, like, when we were down in Association of Towns, they were talking about putting major projects together because of the funding. Now, we're doing one here, one here, one here?
No, actually, it's connected. Here's what I'll do for the board, is I'll provide a written summary of the bond, you know, that we're looking at as far as grant applications, you know, that we've already applied for and that we're planning on looking at. I was gonna save that for later time, but I'll write that up, so you all see that. And then also, it's going to be in large part in sync with what Frederick's preparing for the bond, you know, actually plan as far as it's, you know, paying down on the bond. So I'll prepare that in the next, you know, couple of weeks to write that, you know, up for you. And that will give you a clearer picture, then we can discuss that more. And, you know, I'll get input from Tim as well as Jim as well.
So also, just as far as the bond resolution goes, the adoption of a bond resolution does not commit the town to borrowing any money.
That's correct.
It just authorizes the town to do so. So until such time as, basically, until the town develops the construction plans and goes out to bid to actually start construction, that would be the time when the town would actually pull the trigger on the funding.
Correct.
So, you know, this is just the authority to do so. And to the extent that there's additional grant and aid, or there's a technology that reduces the costs, this is the maximum amount that's authorized. So if the project came in at $2 million, you would just borrow $2 million. However, if the project goes to $7 million,
Right, we can't.
then you have to adopt a new bond resolution
Right.
For the balance.
authorizing the increase to the new amount.
Well, it's not going to 7 million.
No.
It's not.
We'll have that conversation with Tim at great
But,
length.
but most importantly here, and, you know, I've discussed this with a lot of professionals, we're in a unique opportunity phase here where we have 40% reimbursement eligibility, and we have potentially more
Correct.
reimbursement
opportunities, right.
eligibility. So we need to not miss those opportunities, because they may not occur again. And right now, bond rates are still very low, correct?
Right.
So by starting the process now, it's to our advantage as well, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. I mean, the other issue too is, to your point as far as what funding is available, water and sewer projects have really the most grant money options that are out there, primarily because a lot of that money comes from the EPA, from the federal government, through the state, and the state has projects as well. So, you know, of all of the projects that are out there, you'll see the most money that's available on water and sewer projects. You know, as far as construction of town buildings or parks or things like that, there's not a whole lot of, you don't see the same, you know, same amount of money that's available. The project, the bonding that we're looking at for this project comes from the Environmental Facilities Corporation, which is a New York State entity, and in essence, they receive a very large portion of their funding from the federal EPA. So these are, that funding stream comes out of the Federal Clean Water Act.
So the summary that I'm gonna provide you, right up, will cover both water and sewer. So you get a full picture of what, you know, are the project's potential.
Are we locked on the interest rate now, or is it?
No, we're not locked in.
The interest rate, until such time as,
Until you actually,
until you actually
It
get
is
the,
what it is.
Get the
issue the
bond?
bonds.
Okay.
Yeah. And same with the rating too. You know, we have good rating right now. You never know what happens in another 2 years, but
Well,
hopefully it improves. Hopefully it improves.
well, we have been very fortunate
Yes.
to have a good bond rating.
Exactly.
And the way we're going right now, even with these, in my opinion, being here the longest, even with this, this resolution, we are doing our homework, we are proceeding with caution, we have money in the bank, and I believe we are doing what is in the best interest of our residents. So I wouldn't worry about the bond rating right
No.
now. I think we're doing the right thing here.
Yep, we are. Okay, very good.
great.
Yeah, next item, try to get these done before we do executive session, I guess, is a resolution, well, actually discussion concerning the printing of 3,000 copies of the 2020 Town Guide. This is part of shared services, and,
Do we have a new guide?
yeah,
Can I
Joey
see
has
that
a draft.
before we go to print?
And quite honestly, and I've asked them to make copies for everybody else, but this is, quite honestly, I think back to the Councilman Beal's point, this is a far better marketing piece and, you know, useful to our community than perhaps that GovDoc, you know, thing.
We could put the
And-
same graphics in this.
Yeah, and we add, in fact, you'll see.
Really?
Well, in fact, you'll see one of the pages we do that, you know, Joey and I have built in a lot of that in there and still can. But, you know, basically the 3,000 that we printed last year are all gone. You know, it's been a very high demand. We only have maybe 10, 20, you know, left right now.
I think it's a great
So-
thing, but I would like to review it before it
Yeah,
goes to
sure, you
print.
can review.
And I think the
That's why he brought
new
that.
members should also review
So the
it.
cost for this is $4,800?
Yes.
Is that what that is? Okay.
What
But
I
I'd
was-
like to get the, you know, approval for the funding so we can get that working, and then subject to, you know, just final review of, you know, the draft.
So there's two things. Number one, I complimented everyone's work on this last year, okay? We live in an internet world right now, and it is refreshing, in my opinion, to have something in your hand and be able to read it, especially if you're sitting at the Falls Diner, which is where I've read it. There are seniors out there that are not computer savvy, that aren't gonna understand ClearGov. So what I would say right now, if we're gonna use unassigned fund balance for anything, I would rather do it for this. We can always budget for other things when we get into
I agree.
budget time, right?
Agreed.
I think that we should look at budgeting this, though, on an annual basis,
Yeah.
rather than using unassigned fund balance.
Well, in fact, I thought it was, Bill, and I apologize.
I thought it was, too.
But Frederick assures me it wasn't, but
Well,
we
there's
thought it was.
there's contingencies in there that could cover this, but it's B fund anyway, so it's not gonna,
Right.
we're not gonna see an impact. That being said, I agree with Councilwoman Bettina. I think each board member should have an opportunity to flip the pages first before,
Yeah.
before you get to go ahead, to go to print. But that being said, I don't see a reason why we need to delay the process now, so I'll move this
Right.
resolution.
I'll
I'll
second
second,
it.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. Yeah, Joey's, you know, will print up some additional ones, but we wanted, this
Yeah,
is the
'cause we might
latest.
have some
No,
input that
no,
would be
absolutely.
really-
That's why we brought this, just
Because
give
in
us to show you.
addition to people coming into our
Absolutely.
community and seeing this and picking it up
Oh, yeah.
is a valuable thing.
Yes.
I
Yeah, so
think-
all we do is approve the funding tonight. We still have the opportunity to make
Yeah,
changes.
well, yeah. that's
But we
right.
also don't wanna delay it, so.
No.
No.
I think if we can get each member, can you
How about
print out?
Saturday?
for Saturday?
He'll bring it for Saturday.
For Saturday,
Bring it for
each member
Saturday.
get one of those, so we can have a week to look at it in
Right.
case we spot something.
Yeah.
that's not
Exactly.
You guys are going into executive session.
Joey, you got 20 minutes.
He can do it while we're in executive session,
You'll get a
okay?
copy tonight by Saturday if you
You
can.
can have it.
All right, good.
It's not staple.
You're not gonna get stapled.
Now, these get printed at the county print shop?
Yes, by our share agreement,
Thank you.
and also Chris has given us a good discount.
And they are stapled also?
Yes.
They're binding?
will.
Yeah, and they'll be flattened better, you know. it's-
That was done on our town hall copier,
You can give
An
them
hour
mine
ago.
when you bring theirs.
of course.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they will be
I'm afraid-
stapled
I'm afraid
and taken care of
pages are
there.
really-
The county print shop, we have a contract with Dutchess County OCIS, which takes care of the copies, and we're gonna be doing more copies. Actually, this past year, we did less than 3,000.
Yeah, well, remember we had the special printing, you
Yes.
know, that was done at
So,
ProPrint,
yes,
so.
so
All
hopefully that
right,
will
so,
take care of it.
I don't have an issue with this. I think that each council member, though, also should
Absolutely.
get a bunch of them, so we can
Yes,
have them.
yes.
Oh, yeah, no, that's why we're
Yes.
printing 3,000
Yes.
this time, so each of you will have.
What did we
two
do last
different
year?
editions. It was 2,500.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and this guide also went through 6 rounds of revisions as well,
Yeah.
so
I'll find,
hopefully.
I'll find something in here.
Oh, I
You did
know.
find
No,
some
we
out
know,
last
we
one.
know.
So,
We deliberately, Bill, we deliberately misspelled your name, you have to find it someplace.
so again, this
No,
way,
but there might be information that we can provide that'll
You
be
give me a
helpful,
couple
too.
days, I'll find something wrong.
please don't.
Joey, you had to throw me out of his office, because I kept.
And
Anyway,
also, we
okay.
increased the number of pages from 30 pages last year, 30 actual sheets. It's well over 70
Yeah.
pages, because it's a smaller booklet, to 40 this year. So it is a much larger booklet than what we had last year, more comprehensive as well.
All right, we'll discuss it for 5 minutes on Saturday, thanks.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Half hour later, we'll still.
Last item is one to set the interview date, you know, for our open board positions. We can discuss more of that later, but I wanted to get a date set, so we just get it nailed down, and my proposal is for the next meeting on the 9th.
I'm gonna say, I think that we probably should have a separate date, depending how long the meeting's gonna be, because we've got a number of folks that we need to
Okay.
interview that night. If we can fit them in, that's fine.
What if we can fit them in, how long do you want to have the interview? I see no more than a half hour, yeah, but 20 minutes, 15 minutes at the most is what I would prefer.
Well, if you got 11 resumes,
Right,
you have
for an hour.
Wait, guys, can we have a package, please, of all the resumes?
It's in the correspondence.
that
It's in
were
the correspondence file.
In this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
may I have a special package, please, because I see that one is missing. So could you, Mr. Tuckers?
No, it's in there.
I
It's in
didn't see
here.
it.
It's now in
Okay.
there. He sent a
It's in there.
JPEG instead of a
Okay.
PDF, that's why it was confusing.
Right.
Okay.
But it's in the correspondence.
It's in there now, yeah,
Yeah.
it's printed out.
Because, as I said, I would intend to
some-
keep the meeting down, as far as the
If we can do
formal
that, that's
items.
fine, I'm just,
to
as
try not
Bill
to
said,
have
there's
too
11
many
of them, I don't know how you
extra
do them.
meetings.
So if you do 5-minute interviews, and I know, don't laugh, but if you do 5-minute interviews,
You're already looking at an hour.
you're at an hour with 11, right? So,
10-minute interviews, you're 2 hours.
right, so then the question is, do you wanna do it on the same night as the,
That's what I was thinking, do you want to do it on a different night?
I
Whatever you
prefer to
guys
do
want
it the
is fine.
same night and
All
right, so
just
here's-
keep our
so
agenda down.
here's what we'll
Agenda
do.
way down.
I see where
What did we
this,
do last year?
I see where the supervisor's going. So, that night,
Aaron told me to keep you at home, out of home as late as possible, so.
and she's probably watching right now. So, that being said, I can tell that the supervisor and the town clerk are gonna have a lighter agenda on March 9th, correct?
Yes.
So then we can accommodate the
Yes.
interviews.
I mean, that's the idea.
I have no problem with that,
Yeah.
right? Perfect. No, good. I'm
Yeah,
all
it's
for
good.
doing it one night,
Yes.
as long as it's feasible.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
Councilman, you brought it up. It's up to you.
No, that's fine, if we can do it all in one night, that's
Yeah.
fine, I'm okay
Good.
with that.
Thank you.
I
We
just,
should theoretically have a light agenda because we're having a workshop on Saturday.
Yes.
There.
Anyway, so, do I have a motion for the 9th?
Move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions, seeing none, motion passed. To have a motion go to executive session, we have a contract, discuss, as well as a
I'll make a
litigation
motion to go
update.
to executive session.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed, thank you. We'll be in a few minutes. Have-